Good day, everyone. Welcome to Real Conservative News. I'm your host, Nathaniel Rajkumar. Starting off locally here in Trinidad and Tobago, as calls intensify for the Commissioner of Police, Alistair Guevara, to resign, there are warnings that increased nationwide peaceful protests could be looming if he continues to ignore the voices of the mass population. He hasn't even apologized for his statement. It's premature and misleading statement. My response, once upon a time, not long ago, just last year, UNCs believed in social justice and holding those in power accountable for their actions and even their statements, just as I have been doing for the past 10 years when Emperor Rowley was in office. Now that we're in charge, uniting for a just cause and putting politics aside no longer matters. You remember we used to be saying that? UNCs and myself used to be saying PNM patriots need to put politics aside and stand up for the country instead of standing up for the party. All that has been thrown out the window now. I've been realizing for a long time now that UNCs are just like PNM patriots. But this year, I am now convinced that my suspicions were correct. So last year, when I had a certain type of disagreement with callers on the ground report, which made me stop even viewing that program in the first place. And then even years before that, when I was even defending martial work at a point in time based on our faith, Christian faith, but that's a whole different topic. I realized certain things, but now I'm seeing is even when it pertains to just normal politics, UNC based supporters are no different to the PNM based supporters. I would like UNC supporters to answer these following questions. Feel free to comment. Comment on YouTube, comment on TikTok, wherever, on Facebook and all. Why did they shoot? Why did police officers shoot at individuals who had already surrendered? Man's hands were up in the air, people. If they were being shot at before, why did the officers walk up to the vehicle with so much confidence, calmly walked up to the vehicle, instead of remaining behind their own vehicle and ordering the suspects to exit theirs? Can any one of you explain that to me? Can the police commissioner explain that to me? It is usually, if it is you are really under fire, if it is your life is in danger, you're going to hide behind your vehicle, right? And of course, be aiming at the suspects and demanding that they surrender and they come out of their vehicles. You don't calmly walk up to a vehicle and then start spraying it down, people. You can use common sense to understand what I am saying. Why the secrecy as well, TTPS and Guevara? Why is Kaya's mother being prohibited from seeing her daughter? Why? Can any one of you answer that question? The mother is saying, at this point in time, the mother is saying that she was told by a nurse that Kaya continues to say that there was no gun. There was no gun. And even in the video footage, there's nothing showing that the police confiscated any weapon. And of course, they're saying that the weapon was thrown out of a window. We are supposed to believe that. Where is the evidence to prove that? Where is the firearm to prove that? Were there any fingerprints taken? How come officers didn't rush to her side of the vehicle if she was the actual threat? Because now they're trying to blame her and say she was the one that was firing at them. So how come it is they didn't actually go towards her side of the vehicle if she was the actual threat? One of the most disturbing crimes appears to have been committed by the TTPS in recent history, putting aside the one that happened years ago now in Mova. So one of the most disturbing crimes appears to have been committed by the TTPS in recent history. And UNC activists, people that I trusted and respected, are silent because their party is now governing our nation. They have said they are no longer our, because I cannot continue to affiliate myself with a political party like the UNC until there's significant change. Matter of fact, until Kamala Prasad says is no longer the leader of that party. Yes, people, I am now sounding like Marshall Walker. Doesn't mean I'm going to oppose for opposing sake like Marshall Walker does, or any of those other famous five. I will still commend, I will still applaud when the government does well, but I'm no longer going to actually say that I'm a UNC supporter. So one of the most disturbing crimes appears to have been committed by the TTPS in recent history. And UNC activists are silent because their party is now governing our nation. Guevara and Roger Alexander must resign. Trinidad Cement Limited yesterday informed its customers, mostly hardware stores, contractors, and households looking to do renovations, that the ex-factory price of its cement bags would increase by 15% next Monday. As the National Gas Company previously announced, increase in natural gas prices has now been confirmed retroactive to the 1st of January 2026. This is having a direct and significant impact on TCL's production costs. While TCL remains deeply concerned about the broader impact of these gas prices on your business, end users, and the construction sector, it necessitates a 15% price adjustment effective February 9th, 2026 on sacks of cement, TLC said. TLC said it remains firmly committed to containing its operations in TNT, supporting more than 350 direct employees and over 400 local contractors and suppliers, and continuing its contribution to the economy as a leading foreign exchange generator, with exports expected to exceed $40 million in 2026. My response, now that we're in charge, that's what UNCs are saying, just like how PNMites used to say it. UNCs won't complain about these price increases anymore because yellow is the code, and that's all that matters. And also, didn't the minister say that the companies were supposed to just absorb the price increase? Why isn't he saying anything and telling this cement company not to increase the prices? I'm telling you, UNC is adopting all PNM's style of governance, all PNM's narratives, all PNM's policies. And all UNC supporters are doing are just clapping and saying amen to the same things that they were opposing just a year ago. The Honorable Minister Satya Maharaj joined officials and partners to mark Win Air's inaugural flight between Port of Spain and St. Martin, a strategic step forward in regional connectivity. The ties between Trinidad and Tobago and St. Martin have always been built through people, through travel, for work, education, trade, and family. Yesterday's inaugural flight honors that history while opening a new chapter of cooperation, the minister went on to say. This new route strengthens trade, tourism, and business opportunities, positioning Port of Spain as a key hub in the Caribbean. Trinidad and Tobago is open for business, and yesterday, we took flight together. Give credit when credit is due. As I said before, I'm no longer affiliating myself with the United National Congress. But when they do good, when they make correct policy decisions, I will commend them. Trinidad and Tobago has signed a major bilateral investment agreement with the United Arab Emirates, UAE, marking a significant step towards strengthening economic cooperation and attracting foreign direct investment. That is definitely going to assist in boosting our economy. The agreement for the promotion of reciprocal protection of investment was signed by Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs Sean Sobers on behalf of the government of Trinidad and Tobago, and Minister of State for Financial Affairs of the United Emirates, Mohammed bin Hadi Al Husani, on behalf of the UAE. According to the Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs, the agreement establishes a modern legal framework designed to promote and protect investment flows between the two countries. It provides safeguards for investors from both nations, including guarantees of fair and equitable treatment, that's what is important there, and protection against expropriation. The Ministry of Family, Gender Affairs, Persons with Disabilities, and Labor in the St. Vincent and Grenadines has received an allocation of $17.4 million in the 2026 budget estimates. Minister responsible for the ministry, Laverne Gibson Velox, said that recurrent expenditure amounts to $15 million, with $1 million allocated for policy development. She noted that child development remains a priority area, receiving a further $1 million increase in funding. Minister Gibson Velox also stated that Gender Affairs has received an increased allocation of $300,000. Additionally, with the ministry now responsible for labor, several key programs will be funded to strengthen and improve workers' rights. So far, that new administration seems to be on the right path. Let's hope they remain so and don't follow the Kamla Prasad administration. Meanwhile, the minister said that capital expenditure of $1 million will be directed toward projects in various communities across the country.
Madam Speaker, this increase reflects enhanced allocations for foster care, kinship, institutional payments to support the care, protection and well-being of children who are unable to remain in their biological homes, meaning the homes with their parents for one reason or the other. Since I have come to this ministry, Madam Speaker, I have come across a lot of children who are abused and mistreated and have come into trouble with the law. And to me, this is very disheartening. It is hurtful, and I sometimes can't even deal with it, because these children obviously have come out of broken homes, have not been cared for, and this is something that our government has to pay a lot of attention to, because we have too many children in need of help in this country. Madam Speaker, the Labor Department, which has now been incorporated into this newly established ministry, and I have to stress on newly established ministry, has been allocated $1,844,071 for 2026. This allocation will support labor administration, industrial relations, employment services, and the enforcement of labor legislation. Madam Speaker, the inclusion of the Labor Department within my ministry allows for a more integrated approach to workforce development, occupational safety, and protection of workers' rights. Our local government division has been allocated $6,253,542 for 2026. This allocation will support the operations of local authorities, community services, sanitation, and maintenance across communities of the ministry's program. The total capital expenditure allocation for 2026 is $1,761,030. This allocation will support several critical initiatives, including the relocation of the cemetery project, aesthetic improvements in 3 towns throughout St. Vincent and the Grenadines, including Caliacua, community revitalization projects, the Occupational Health and Safety Project, which is new to the Ministry of Labor, renovation of the Labor Department in preparation for relocating and expanding to include the Occupational Health and Safety component.
The Jamaica Public Service is reporting that thieves have vandalized several transformers that were being stored at a church in Westmoreland that was scheduled to be deployed to support Hurricane Melissa electricity restoration efforts in the parish. The company, in a statement on Tuesday, strongly condemned the actions, and so the rest of us should do the same. Jamaica is on its pathway to recovery. That's your country. You're supposed to care about your country, and that's what you're doing, undermining the process. My goodness, I hope justice is served and these individuals are apprehended, and then of course let the judicial process take place. The Guyana Cricket Board extends warm congratulations to the government of Guyana on the presentation of the national budget for 2026. Quite impressive, which once again underscores government's unwavering commitment to national development. Irfan Ali administration at this point in time seems to be the only regime that genuinely seeks to serve the citizens of their country. Of particular significance is the allocation of $6 billion Guyanese dollars towards sport development, including $1.3 billion earmarked especially for the maintenance and upgrading of sports grounds across the country. International news now. The meeting between Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel's Prime Minister, and U.S. President Special Envoy Steve Witkoff has concluded. I don't know why Trump continues to use Witkoff to mediate in the Middle East, It's ridiculous. The Prime Minister emphasized the uncompromising demand for the disarmament of Hamas and demilitarization of the Gaza Strip and the completion of the war's objectives before the reconstruction of Gaza. That was the agreement to begin with. But Witkoff always wants to be changing up everything to be able to please the Trump's Arab allies in the Middle East. The Prime Minister made clear that the Palestinian Authority will not take part in administering the Gaza Strip in any way, and informed the U.S. Ambassador Hochstein of the serious violations discovered in Gaza involving the use of UNRWA bags to conceal weapons. Ahead of Envoy Witkoff's trip to meet an Iranian representative, the Prime Minister reiterated his position that Iran has repeatedly proven it cannot be trusted to keep its promises, and yet Trump continues to try to make deals with them. How many times will Iran have to violate those agreements? How many times will they even have to say no and reject those agreements? How many times will you make new peace deals with them? Trump and Witkoff. Another good leader, another person that basically is standing strong in his beliefs, although sometimes he humbles himself to Trump, is Israel's Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. A few days ago, Russia launched its most massive combined attack on Ukraine for this year. The approximate trajectory of the missiles and drones is being published by observers. The primary target of the attack is energy infrastructure. That's basically the normal thing for war, though. I mean, he's wrong for trying to invade Ukraine and trying to rebuild the USSR. That's a whole different discussion. And yet Trump continues to try to find and make more peace deals. Yes, people. But nevertheless, prophecy must be fulfilled, And at some point in time, things will end up reaching to we are going to end up reaching to the Ezekiel 38 war. Will we be here, or will the rapture take place first? Only God knows. Closing off now with an interesting fact segment. While many people believe they eventually get used to background noise, recent scientific findings suggest that the brain never truly habituates to chronic auditory interference. Research published in 2025 and 2026 indicates that constant exposure to sounds above 55 decibels, common in open offices and busy urban areas, acts as a persistent stressor that fragments our attention and drains mental bandwidth. This ongoing cognitive load forces the brain to constantly reorient itself, a process that can take up to 20 minutes to recover for every major distraction. No wonder people are always under so much tension and stress nowadays. Folks, that brings us to the end of today's news report. Thanks again to everyone who continues to support my content. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay blessed and stay safe, most of all. In Jesus' name.